Okay, and we're back. Enjoying we are now at the Portsmouth, Ohio, officially. I'll let you read it. Portsmouth, Ohio floodwall murals. History of Portsmouth. The artist Robert Dafford of Lafayette, Louisiana, Portsmouth, to design and paint murals during the 10-year period of 1993 to 2002. The flood wall was built following the 1937 flood, approximately 21 feet high and over 100 feet long on Front Street. They cover over 43,000 square feet. Portsmouth Murals is a private, non-profit, all-volunteer organization. So here we go. First up is a view Portsmouth area 2,000 years ago. Okay, it's nothing. The areas of Portsmouth. There's New Boston up there. So it was... Portsmouth would be right here. Of course, South Portsmouth. And looking over present day, Green Lawn Cemetery, Highland School, Mound Park, New Boston, Ohio River, a farm in Solem, Kentucky. Serpent Mound, which is in Peebles. I've not been there, but it's very popular and light prehistoric. You got historic 1000 to 1500 AD. 600 to 1200 AD is late prehistoric. And then Adena was early woodland. And the Palo Indian was BC. And so here are the early settlers of, I guess, here in Portsmouth were Indians. The Native Americans, of course, you can see the river there, and those are their huts right here. Little huts, houses, everything else. We're going to go through these rather quickly because there's a bunch. The French general explorer Clairon de Blainville met Native Americans and British traders at the mouth of the Scioto to claim the Ohio Valley. So this is the Ohio Valley. This is the Ohio Valley in Scioto County. And that's just where they met and claimed the land. Now here, basically just farmland. This one big mural of how everything works. Back then were farming. It's a lot of agricultural area. Of course, a lot of horses, you got livestock, dogs, cats, and everything else through here. As we move on towards into the other generation, we have the house that sat right on the river. Of course, by then it was swept away by the flood of 1937, and there is a specific building that you can see. I know. 1803, Portsmouth was founded by Henry Massey, and Henry Massey was, that's what Massey Hall was named after, is Henry Massey. Portsmouth was founded in 1803, and went on from there. So here's kind of I don't know, this might have been the American Revolution. I don't know if it's the Civil War. or not. But this is interesting because first when I looked at it, it looked real. That cat looked real, but it's not. It's painted on the wall. And it looks like they're adding on to this building, but this building is actually real compared to this, because you can see he's hauling up that piece of wood right there, building the house, which part of this, it looks like it's part of this, but it's not. It's all painted. And so we're going to continue on here. There's just some of the some more of just agricultural works, everything else in the early 1800s, after Portsmouth was founded, and settlers began to come in and take over the land after the Native Americans. They kicked out the Native Americans and just ran them off. And so the settlers, the newcomers from Britain and England, settled in the Ohio Valley of Scioto County. And here's the Ohio Erie Canal of what it looked like. This is the Ohio Erie Canal. From 1825 to 1913, the Ohio Erie Canal, it basically just ran water through here at one point in time in Portsmouth. And you can see this is half of the map of Ohio. It says Ohio freight passengers from Cleveland on Lake Erie to Portsmouth. I guess this was the route that they took. So here's when they went through Akron, Cleveland, they went through Akron, came down through Columbus, ended up through Chillicothe, through Waverly, and then eventually came here to the very southern point of Ohio, of Portsmouth. And now we're getting into the Industrial Revolution. This was one of my favorites because they have trains in it. And the Industrial Revolution, this was where it really kept booming. The Industrial Revolution changed America forever. It basically took away some of the farming and everything else, so the agricultural side was dropping. They needed another way. Horsepower was not going to cut it. However, steel power was, and get freight and things there faster and more quicker and more reliable throughout the area. Here are some of the churches that existed. I'm just going to kind of go through these. St. Mary's Catholic, Methodist, Church of Christ, Catholic, Methodist, Presbyterian Church, and what does that say? The Evan Church of Christ, Holy Redeemer Catholic. Those are just some of the churches that existed back in the 1800s, back when Portsmouth was found. Here we have more of the Industrial Revolution. More, of course, you see steel power. Machines began to take over. The men in the steel mills from Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh, that's why it's called the Steel City, came and brought trains, coal trains, steel, over to Portsmouth. And they had the shoe company, which was based here in Portsmouth, and made shoes and everything else. And of course the agricultural side back was it was being powered. Of course, you can see powered by machines now, where the cattle could pull, or horses could pull the hay or grain or whatever they were building. Of course, trains were also a big part. The railroad, very big part of history that changed. That was the major part of the Industrial Revolution, was the trains brought in coal, steel, anything they could get their hands on. I mean, it was everything from dairy products to steel to cotton to lumber, coal, brought into Portsmouth. And this was the Ohio-Baltimore Railway. And of course, it would go through Cleveland and go everywhere else. And now here we have the just Portsmouth in early stages. We have grocery stores. This was supposed to be like on Market Street, and it says what it was back in the early stages in the 1800s. Now we're hitting the 1900s of 1903. This was painted by Robert Dafford in May of 1993. I was 1 year old. I was going to kind of show you the views until we get to another segment, because this is what it looked like in 1903. Portsmouth. Of course, you see the mighty Ohio down below, and that's the city of Portsmouth as it was. And it got bigger. I mean, it grew, very much so, and everything else. So we're going to kind of go right through here, and Portsmouth was on its 100th anniversary. In the turn of the century, Carl Ackerman, from the Kentucky side. This is from the Kentucky side of view of Portsmouth. So this will be interesting. That way you can see what Portsmouth actually looked like. See that amusement park, kind of amusement park rides on the side. We're on the Kentucky side. That's what Portsmouth looked like over there. And Shelby Shoes. This is what I was talking about earlier. The shoe factory, really booming. It was by Shelby Shoes. This was the shoe factory right here. Very popular, and it really was a lot of hard work. It wouldn't be now because of all the machines, that advanced technology and stuff. But this is how they made the shoes. They made these shoes with this machine right here. There we go. This machine right here, it would turn the wheel. You put the shoelace through, and you would have to use a crank and actually turn the crank in order to get the shoelace fit the right shoe. And so, moving on, and we used to have a trolley system, I guess, and it would run. There are still some brick layouts in town today, but very rare to see. It's mostly paved over, but a lot of the pave, when it gets weathered out and it dries away, gets weathered and everything, you can still see a little bit of brick underneath the pavement. But this is what it looked like. I'll show you the brick here. This was the brick right down here. You can see. It'd be a lot better on this side. You can see the brick on this side. There we go. This is what it looked like back. This was the town of Portsmouth. It was just a simple small town, not as big as it is today. It's a very small town. Everybody knew everybody. Everybody was nice, friendly, and everything else. And then Julia Marlowe, world famous Shakespeare tragedy. So she must have played Juliet in Romeo and Juliet, Shakespeare's novel. Okay, here. Now remember when I was talking about the Portsmouth Spartans earlier? This is them. The Portsmouth Spartans. Or the Portsmouth Shoe Steals. I'm sorry, this is the Shoe Steals in 1927. This is their football team. And that was their coach. And so, or no, that was their coach up there. And then they had Here is the Portsmouth Spartans back in 1932. And said the Spartans were admitted to the NFL 1930. The first night football game in NFL was played between the Spartans and the Brooklyn Dodgers. I thought the Brooklyn Dodgers were baseball. Anyway, the first NFL championship game, first indoor football game, was played on December 1932 between the Portsmouth Spartans and the Chicago Bears. Dutch Clark, former Spartan, is a charter member of the National Professional Football Hall of Fame. Portsmouth Spartan franchise became the Detroit Lions in 1934. So they were only here for 2 years. Then they moved on to play in Detroit. Spartans, the National Football League, University of the Portsmouth Universal Stadium. The pregame guide, it was only 15 cents. It was gone, not forgotten. This was the football sports side of things. Let's see, the Portsmouth Spartans are in green and white pants and leather helmets. Didn't have all that padding, they just wore that. They just wore basically pants and a long sleeve shirt for football and a leather helmet. Very dangerous. And now we come up to one of the famous ones, Roy Rogers. Now, Roy Rogers was a famous cowboy here who lived in Portsmouth. He was very famous throughout the area. He wrote a lot of songs, stuff like that. Now, here in 1937, this was the flood. This was the famous flood, Portsmouth flood, you can see, of 1937. See how tragedy it was. People got swept away. A lady in her arms is trying to swim, saves her baby. She ends up dying, drowning in the flood. And see how big the flood was. When the river flooded, so much rain and just broke through. Even buildings, inside the buildings were covered in water, and so many wooden boats had to be used, but not a lot of people drowned in that tragedy. But here we had the Portsmouth Redbirds. Baseball team played here, signing Jackie Robinson in 1947, and Wesley Rickey, Branch Rickey. Branch Rickey Park is actually the home of Shawnee State baseball now, the Shawnee State University baseball team, and it goes on. This is where they played at, the Portsmouth Redbirds, and now Shawnee State plays there. That's Branch Rickey himself. This is the orator. You got the broadcaster, baseball, and you got else. Now, I don't know if the Portsmouth Redbirds moved to Memphis and now are the Memphis Redbirds. I really want to find that out because that would be interesting. But I'm not sure. I don't want to quote you on that. The Robert E. Lee, the boats on the Ohio. Jesse Stewart, he's author. Jesse Stewart, author. I've never seen a city as original and friendly as my beautiful Portsmouth. Jesse Stewart, author and educator, W. Hollow, Greenup County, Kentucky. That's him right there. And so, we're on Chillicothe Street. Of course, it's still brick. We're kind of getting into our era of time. We're going to go ahead and do these. Like I said, here's the steel, the Industrial Revolution, the steel part, Steel City. Of course, the Steel City is Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but you could just kind of see the pictures as I go by them. This is the steel mill that was in Portsmouth, and right here says Pittsburgh. Okay, like I said, the Steel City of Pittsburgh. This is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, working on the steel mill with iron and steel and copper and aluminums and everything else. To put on trains and come to Portsmouth to start building buildings and stuff like that. And this was just like an old factory kind of thing right here. Walking by it, and then of course you have just some of the, this one, because this is a scaffolding right here, you can't see anything. But here you can see the, of course, Portsmouth it's got sports and the band and Shawnee State, I guess, I don't know when. This is, just education in the Portsmouth, Ohio. Education in Portsmouth. So it's like from football, basketball, cheerleading, band, and graduations. Of course, you got people in honors. This is baseball and softball. Of course, this was still back when they had the civil rights movement too, when segregation. And now here is Shawnee State University. See, you got Vern Rife, Building for the Arts. Up at the top here, down below we have the up at the top, very top, that's the library. University Center, top left, right in the center here. I'm not sure. But this is the start. This is leads the way into the athletic center, right here. And then down here is the another part of Massey Hall. It connects to Massey Hall. Of course, Speaker of the House of the State of Ohio, widely recognized benefactor of Shawnee State, establishing Shawnee State University was effective on July 2nd of 1986. And here is the history of the railroad. Now, the railroad, of course, melting steel, all came from steel. The steam engines began to really kick into high gear in transporting goods from one town and city to the other, and crossing state lines constantly, and casting iron. Both. This is Osco. Osco is actually in Portsmouth. And uranium. It sits now right on, it's like a V shape, the road sits right on the left. Enrichment. Let's see. This is the shoelace manufacturing. Those are shoelaces. This is where they made the shoelaces. At the shoe factory, right across from Walmart now. It's in New Boston. And Portsmouth Hospital. This is the school for nursing. At the hospital, a bunch of nurses taking care of sick patients. And everything else. So we have generals from World War I. World War One, World War Two, Korean War. Right here, Korean War, and this is World War Two. Vietnam War, of course, and the Gulf War. Of course, it was a lot of people were sent off in those wars. It was very unfortunate they had to do that, but they didn't have enough men to fight, so they used what was called the draft. They would draft people to send them off to war. Now, here's what the Scioto County Fair looked like, and it was a lot nicer than it is today. It's horrible. It's just so bad. But anyway, this is what it looked like back in the 1900s. The lawmen just everywhere. And here's kind of, now we're getting into today's time of what Portsmouth looks like today. This bridge right here goes into West Portsmouth, Portsmouth West High School. I announced there as part of the radio station. I have no idea what these names mean, what they are, but this is just kind of what, now we're getting into the present day of Portsmouth. And here is what Portsmouth looks like today. The nightcap, what Portsmouth is like. Right here. See, it's really nice. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me on this grand tour of the Portsmouth flood walls and the history of Portsmouth, Ohio. So glad you can join us. Please like, subscribe, leave comments. As we took a step back in time from when Portsmouth was founded and when Shawnee State University first became a school and was founded by Vernon Rife and everything else. So, I'm going to head back to my car because it is sweltering hot. I feel like I'm still in Tennessee because it's so humid out and just flat out hot. And I've got to go back to the house to take a shower and get ready for the wedding tonight. So, like I said, again, we're off. And I will see you guys again soon. Again, like, subscribe to my channel, Squatch Vlogs 1. Leave comments anywhere else you want me to go. Please let me know, and I'll try my best to get there. And like I said, we're off, and I'll see you guys next time.